Okay, so going on to talking about different data, because being able to do well in the stock market, you really need to understand all the data you have access to about prices and changes in prices and what's going on. So there's a lot of terms that we went over here. What we're going to look at is going to be just kind of a summary of a day's worth of trading. I'm going to kind of talk through this a little bit, and then all we're going to do is just answer some questions, read through the information, as well as apply one little piece of information here to make sure we understand what it actually means. So again, what we have here are just two summaries of 2 days of the same company, XYZ Corporation, whatever. A summary of the day's trading. Again, the stock market is open. It's a market, an actual physical place that is open from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. So you can see the time right here, 4 p.m. That means the day is done. There's technically, again, after hours trading, which I think we talked about here a little bit. But really, again, the official day is done at 4 p.m. So we have the last, which means at that time what the last trade was. But because this is closing, this also means the closing price. If the time were different, it would just mean the last price that was listed at that time. But again, because this is closing time, this will be the closing price, we can call it as well. CHG, what do you think that stands for? That's change. Now, we wrote this down, I believe, here, yes, but I'm going to write it here again. This change specifically means from yesterday close. So it is how this price has changed from yesterday's closing. So again, they're just saying, hey, the price is, since this is positive, that means it's up $2.61 from yesterday's closing. So we can say, hey, here's where it closed at yesterday, here's where it closed at today. We have the opening price of the day, so it's at 9 a.m. That was the price it was at, so we can see it went up a little bit during the day. We have a 52-week high, 52-week low. Again, we talked about that. We know that means looking backwards a year from this date. So May 5th a year ago, what was the high price? So we can see that that past year had been a bit higher. We can also see we had a low, though, in the past year, 53.60. So we're somewhere in the middle here. Sales in hundreds, excuse me, once again, this is 28,000 hundreds. We're going to talk about that in a bit. They just abbreviate it because, again, in one day, thousands and thousands and thousands and sometimes millions of stocks can be traded. And so they say it in hundreds because just imagine having dollar bills versus $100 bills of the same amount. It's more condensed, right? It's not as much dollar bills, so it's easier to deal with and write. And then we have the high of the day and the low of the day. So we have 2 days we're looking at here. I just wanted to kind of, again, skim through that. We're going to refer back to this as we answer the questions. So, first question says, what was the difference between the high and low prices on May 5th? So, we're looking at May 5th for all of these questions here. I'm going to look back here and I'll ask the question again in the Edpuzzle. So, it was asking what's the difference between the high and the low. So, find the high and low on May 5th. Again, we're only looking at May 5th right now. What is the difference between those two? You should know what you need to do for a difference. Well, here's the high and the low. Difference means to subtract, right? So we have 52.60 minus 49. So that's $1.360 should be. So that means throughout the day, the price fluctuated $3.60 from the highest to the low. Now, again, it can go all over. Yeah, again, the price changes in seconds. It's insane how quickly a price can change. But through the day, that's how much it fluctuated. That was the range of prices throughout the day. So still on May 5th, what was the actual volume? So actual volume, again, means sales. Whenever we're talking about volume of shares, that means how many sales or how many shares were traded back and forth. Really, again, it's sales and purchases, I guess you could say, the flip side, the buying and the selling. But it comes from, again, the sales in hundreds. So like we said, they kind of condensed this here because it's a big number. And so they don't want to write all of the zeros because it's just a big number. So sales in hundreds, that's once again volume. But it is not 28,000. It's 28,000 hundreds. So imagine that I had 28,000 $100 bills. How much money do I actually have? Well, the easy thing is you just tack 2 zeros onto the end, right? If I could multiply this by 100, if I have 28,000 $100 bills, just multiply. But what ends up happening is I just tack 2 zeros on, right? So if I have 28,000 hundreds, tack 2 zeros on, and then you can add your commas. So this is 2,800,000 shares. This is not money. This is how many pieces of the company were traded back and forth. So again, very large number, which is why they list it in hundreds, so they can just take off some of the zeros to make the numbers smaller and easier to look at. On May 5th, what was the opening price on that day? So this is just reading. Find it on May 5th again. What was the opening price? 50.10 right there. So this is where it was on the opening price of that day. Now, this is not a typo. This next question says, what was the closing price on May 4th? So that's the day before. Notice this is May 5th. I'm asking for the closing price from yesterday. Now, I have it written here. We know something related to yesterday, right? The word's even right there. We know how, oh man, crap. I'm going to have to go back and say that later. I'll fix this in the video. Sorry. How the opening has changed. Oh my goodness. How the opening has changed from yesterday's close. Oh man, that was bad. I'll have to go back and fix that. I'll fix it. From yesterday's close. How the opening has changed. Good Lord. Okay. So let's backtrack here. When they say change, again, they mean how has it changed overnight. I'm going to keep going. I'm going to have to edit this because I'm all flustered now that I'm angry that I made that mistake. So let me erase this. This is the change from yesterday's close. However, we want to say this is the overnight change. Meaning from open to close. So this is from close to open. This is from the close of one day to the opening of the next. So I'll clarify it here. That's my bad, man. So here's how this works. Let me clear this up here. Here's the May 4th close to the May 5th open. So this is the change that I was referring to. Again, I'm sorry, I mixed that up there. The May 5th open was this price right here, right? We know that. So 50.10, that was the May 5th open. What we also know is to get from this closing to the open, the price changed $2.61. So I'm going to say it was up $2.61. So we want to go in reverse and find what the close was from yesterday. Again, the change they're referring to is the overnight change. Because again, we talked about how, yes, there is a close and an opening to the market, an actual time that it closes and opens. But especially with the internet nowadays, after hours trading is a really big thing where the market's closed, but deals are still being made, and things are happening, right? Again, if Kylie Jenner comes out at midnight and says Snapchat's done, that's going to affect the price when Snapchat opens again at 9 a.m. So this, whatever happened overnight, that's how it affected the price. So good things happened actually overnight. So what that means is we're going in reverse. What should I do to find, I'm going backwards, this price here? Well, if I'm going in reverse, that means I want to do the opposite, right? I'm going to subtract 261 because if this price is up, that means yesterday was down, right? So if I subtract 50.10 minus 261, I'm going in reverse. Let's do this math here. 50.10 minus 2.61, whoops. we should get 47.49. So that was the closing price yesterday, because once again, I'm sorry, that was my fault. I'm going to have to figure out how to edit that so I don't look so stupid. This change refers to the overnight change from the closing of one day to the opening of the next, in particular, this opening of this day. So what you're going to do is you're going to try this again. I am going to type the questions into the Edpuzzle note here, and then I will leave this slide on here. I want you to answer all 4 questions, or as many as you can. So you can go ahead again. I'll have all the questions typed, but we're doing it just on May 12th. So one more time to clarify, though, that was my fault. This change refers to the overnight change, meaning from the May 11th close to this day's open. So I want to clarify that. If you're a little bit confused, again, that was my bad. We'll talk about that last question when we come back together. Okay, so here's all the questions again. What was the difference between the high and low prices? So it was just subtracting these two, right? 51.40 minus 50.60? Yeah. It's 80 cents? 51.40 minus 50.60. 80 cents, yeah. So not a lot of fluctuation. Again, sometimes prices can fluctuate $100 in a day. If things are really bad, that can happen. So this is good. This was a pretty consistent day, not a ton of fluctuation. What was the actual volume of shares? So once again, it is 32,000 hundreds. So literally all you have to do is go tack on 2 zeros. That ends up being 3,200,000 shares that were traded back and forth that day. On May 12th, what was the opening price? This is just reading. Here's our open, $49.90. Now again, here's how we do the last question. So the closing price on May 11th is our end goal. What we know is the change to the May 12th open. That change is negative 155. So this means overnight some bad things happened for this price to drop. So you should have gone in reverse, right? If I want to go backwards to yesterday's close, you should have added a $1.55 to go in reverse. So $49.90 plus a $1.55. Because again, if this price is down, that means yesterday's price was higher, which ends up being $51.45. So that was the closing price the day prior. Now, you have 2 more slides if you have the notes packet. We're not going to do these. Again, guys, this unit's a bit longer, and I'm kind of skimming things down to make sure we can get it all wrapped up and still have time to talk about retirement. So this is going to be the assignment, is just answering through one of these questions, these pieces of information, reading the data summary, and then you're going to have a review question as well.